Welcome to Bunnyfish Crafts. I'm your host Heather, known as Bunnyfish on Ravelry, Instagram, and YouTube. Today is Monday, the 23rd of March, 2015. This is episode 121, Mend It March Part 4. Grab some sticks and string and come sit with me. I'm sorry, Mara is singing Let It Go, and it is so distracting. She's obsessed with that song. This week, I did something that I really hate doing, which is going clothing shopping, but my wardrobe had pretty much given out on itself. Like my long sleeve shirts, all of them were damaged, so it was time. I also got new shoes. I hate shopping for things because I have to try everything on. Ready to wear is not actually ready to wear. Anyway, how was your week? I had a pattern release this week. Yay! It is the Under Armour, which is a sock pattern, and it is it's for the 716 Knit Divergent Club. So if you haven't received your package yet, which you should have, I'm going to show the socks for the pattern. This is what they look like. So there are two socks there. They are a mirrored pattern, and it biases across the front, and it biases across the back. The idea is they're based off of Four, who is one of the main characters, and he's focused a lot more heavily on in the third book than in the first two books. And his name is Tobias, so I wanted to use something that biased out. And also, even though we get to know more about him, he's still very guarded all the time. So when you take away one layer of armor, there's still more armor underneath, or take away this and there's still this underneath. Whichever way, there's two layers of armor. So that was the idea. And this yarn is the Club Colorway, which is One Choice Will Define You. Very pretty. Jenna always does amazing stuff. And now that that pattern has come out, I can show you two old finished objects. It's two more pairs of socks. I did the first pair in June of last year. I was knitting them at the Zombie Knit Apocalypse. So that's the first pair. And this is Premier Serenity Sock in the Woodsy colorway. And then this is a pair that I did, I think, in August. And it's in the Joanne Sensations Truly colors and Truly Red. And this one I modified a little bit to, instead of having a cuff, see, it has a cuff, I did not do the cuff, and I just did the pattern all the way up the leg. So it's a little different. Yeah, it's a $6 pattern, downloadable on Ravelry. I think that's all I have to say about the pattern. And it uses, I did all large size socks. It's only written for one size. It's only written for 64 stitches, but it's easy to modify by going up or down 4 stitches. I think I did this one at 68, and it's a men's size 10, and it only used 80 grams, so you could easily get a pair of these socks out of any standard sock yarn skein. I have another finished object though. Those aren't the only finished things I have to show you. I'm super excited about this one. I finished the Sarah Cardigan by Laura Ayler using 716 Knit Kona worsted in modified hamsters on US size 7 4.5mm needles, and I will show it to you. So here it is. It is still quite damp because I finished it yesterday and started blocking it last night. Here's the sweater. Here's the sweater hanging open. There's no closure on it, which is fine because I don't tend to wear closures on my sweaters a lot. I really like this, this contiguous sleeve. I hadn't done one of those before, and it's really cool, and it looks nice. So here's a close-up of what that fabric looks like. So beautiful. I think I'm going to rip back the cuff on this sleeve. It's ribbed, but it's not a lot of ribbing, but it kind of curls. Maybe I just need to use a different bind off. I think I just need to use a different bind off. So I'm going to rip out the bind off and redo it, but I'm still counting it as finished because that's going to be like 3 minutes of work or something per side. Be very fast. So this is where I was last week. I knit down all of this, and then I picked up and knit this ribbed shawl collar. And I am super excited for the sweater to be dry so I can wear it because I like it so, so much. It is a paid for pattern. I do recommend when you start it, that whole contiguous sleeve thing, there's a lot going on. So read the instructions, pay attention where it says, and you will also have to do this at the same time. But if you're paying attention, it's not difficult. And then it's very easy because it just goes into stockinette zombie mode. And I really, really like it. It's a really, really nice knit for crazy yarn. And I'm sure it looks lovely in solid color yarns too. I haven't looked at the project pictures because I haven't, but I love mine in the crazy yarn. And I would, if I were the type of person who made patterns more than once, I would make that pattern again. So maybe in like a decade, I might make that sweater again. So works in progress. Where do I want to start? I'll start here. So I worked on the Charybdis socks by Fiona Bennett. And I didn't put a stitch marker in, so I don't know how much work I accomplished on them. But here's the spiral pattern. I don't think I did a lot of work on these. Very minimal. But I love the yarn. It is Science Monkey Mercantile Faraday in the Jovian Princess colorway. And these socks are just going to be amazing when they're finished. Very beautiful. I worked on the Suggestive Message socks for my sister, and this is where I was last week on the first one. So I finished off the cuff, and then I picked up the second one. I already had the toe because I did the toes for both of them at the same time, but I am finished with the foot and have to put in the heel. I stopped because I was at work and didn't want to have to deal with a heel while people were around on my break. I started the sample knitting that I'm doing for Leading Men Fiber Arts. So this is Leading Men Fiber Arts Spotlight, which is an 80-20 BFL nylon mix in the colorway My Maker. And I'm not even through the toe yet, but they're pattern toes. And this is the Raison d'Etre by Lisa Tomko. So those will be very fun because they're going to be all sorts of patterns and stuff. Oh, this right here, I dyed my hair last week and I left a splotch of hair dye on my arm and it's just not going away. So that's what that is. Last night at work, my friend was like, oh my gosh, what did you do to your arm? And I was like, what are you talking about? And she poked it and I was like, what are you talking about? And I looked at it and I was like, oh, hair dye. That happens sometimes. And it's not like when you get hair dye in your face, because your face secretes oils and stuff all the time to clean off, and my arm does not secrete oils the way my face does, so it's still there. It should be gone next week. Anyway, that was totally random. I worked on my hat pattern that I talked about last week, and I was farther than this. So I have the brim, and I've started the pattern. I was almost through an entire pattern repeat, and I didn't like the proportions of the hat, so I ripped out that much. I made the brim taller and reworked the proportions for the patterns, and I like it much better now. So this is Sophie's Toes in Vintage Kitchen. I'm working it on US size 1 for the brim and then US size 3 for the patterned part. And all of the socks that I'm working on are all worked on US size 1 2.25 millimeter needles. So that's that. Thank you for the people who volunteered to test knit. I will hopefully be getting that out pretty quickly to you. Obviously, I'm still at the beginning stages, but hopefully I'll be getting something out to you very soon, relatively. The other thing that I worked on is the ABABA scarf by, oh yeah, this is the name that I can't pronounce. So it'll be across the bottom right here. This is, so how long it is. Not a ton of progress this week, just very little. I'm using Regia lace in the 06577 colorway, and I'm holding it 3 strands together, so 3 strands when it comes off the ball. It's only one. US size 6, 4.0 millimeter needles. I don't have a lot to say about my projects this week. I feel like I've just gone, whew. I guess this one's going to be a short one. Sorry, guys. I started square 15 barn raising, and I'm not going to show it next week because I have 2 more rounds of color and then a round of black, and then it'll be finished. This is the yarn that I used for Gabriel's sweater. It's a color block, and I didn't hold it double. I held singly. I had a really small ball left over from the first ball of Red Hot's yarn. I used more than one in general, but I had 2 cakes that I was using. Anyway, I had a small ball, so I used that up in the center, and then I used the gray that I was holding stranded with it, and now I'm using this again. I didn't run out of the gray, but I just didn't want to do gray all the way to the end. So I added back in the orange, and it's almost finished, so you won't see it next week. I will have a different barn raising square for you to see. I don't have anything new this week. I finished reading Gone with the Wind. Well, I finished listening to it, and I have to say I'm a little satisfied with the ending, but I also don't feel like I don't feel like there would have been a satisfying ending. I don't know. I don't think there's any way that that book could have ended satisfactorily for me. I would recommend listening to it because it's a classic, and it's also a really interesting look at what it was like to be on the to be a Southerner during the Civil War and the fallout from that and what society was like. It's very, very interesting from that standpoint. And by the end of the story, I did kind of like Scarlett O'Hara a little bit. At the beginning, I didn't like her at all. She was, I don't know, very two-dimensional. And then she became a person by the end. And I really appreciated her as a character. So I would recommend it, but I would say audiobook it. I don't know if I would recommend picking up this massive book and trying to read it. I feel like that would be a lot. I'm still reading The 11th Station. It's, I don't know. It's good, but it's not grabbing me. Like, I feel like when I finish a chapter, I can put it down and I don't feel the drive to start a new chapter. I think it's just me. I think I'm just in that part of my reading cycle where I'm like, oh yeah, books. Okay, I'll read because that's what I do. But I think that I'm just there. So reading is probably going to be pretty light the next short while. I don't know. I have mending. I finished mending both leg warmers, not weaving in ends though, of course, that would be silly. So both are mended, both are wearable because I can just tuck the ends inside. And I haven't worn them because it got warm, of course. But now they're both leg warmers instead of not. I had a pair of socks, well, not I, Steve has a pair of socks, and they had dropped stitches in the cuffs. Unintentionally dropped stitches, so I fixed the drop stitches and finally wove in the ends. That's what I get for not weaving in ends. And my other mending is I have 2 reusable bags. a blue one and an orange one. And both of them had a broken strap, so I mended those straps. I mean, they were still functional bags. It's just easier to carry now with the strap. And that's really all I have for you this week. I'm sorry if you were wearing earbuds and she just screamed in your ear. Yeah, that's all I have for you this week. I hope you made something fantastic with your sticks and string. And I'm sorry it's so short. Have a good week. Bye.